decreasing. So basically, should you even think about buying a new vehicle these days? We'll also be covering a little bit of, should you be considering buying a used vehicle these days? Now, I asked Marie to put a nice photo on in the background and she put my face on. So I'm really sorry about that. Clearly, she has what we would call bad taste.
Not that bad.
So I hope you can all hear us.
Love your thumbnail, by the way.
Well, thanks. I hope you can hear us very well because we're working out some added equipment in the office and we had a little technical issue. Winston made business on some of our sound deadening, which is on the floor. So hopefully this week the sound is better. So let's put the pedal to the metal, get right down to business. We are back from Florida, and well, we've got big news. CEO Jim Farley at Ford said prices should come down in 2023 by 5%. Meanwhile, you've got JP Morgan saying prices should come down between 2.5% to 5% for new vehicles. And they're also forecasting about, I think it is 10 to 20% on used vehicles. So 2023 is going to become a better time to buy a used vehicle if interest rates actually stop going up. And we've got a little bit of news about that because we are coming down from Florida and we heard right on the radio that for the first time in quite a while, interest rates didn't increase when they were due to increase. And actually, they're talking about 5.99 interest rate for houses. So it seemed, at least for the housing market, that was a bit of a decrease. Do remember with all this, there's some people, there's a lot of YouTube channels that are going to have fantastic thumbnails saying absolutely do not buy a vehicle right now in 2023. And some of those same channels were saying last summer not to buy one and wait until 2023 because 2023 prices were going to be amazing. Well, that was based on the forecast by JP Morgan saying that prices would decrease. Now, I have got some news I want to share in regards to all that. I'll also be sharing some news on the Ford Bronco, the new Ford Ranger, the Ford Maverick. Got some positive and a little bit of negative news on the Ford Maverick and a bit on the F-150 Lightning. So let's get started right up. We're going to start with whether it's a good time to buy a vehicle. So Jim Farley, let's start off with what Jim Farley had to say, CEO at Ford. He was saying that coming back to the US, as we said, a 15 million unit industry, we think prices are going to come and the industry are going to fall. Sorry, the news source misquoted him on that by forgetting a word or two, but basically says transaction prices will fall about 5%. So Jim Farley said transaction prices will fall about 5% in 2023. Now, we're talking about average transaction price, or what's called the ATP. So average transaction price, talked about this in the Q4 earnings call with investors. So when you're a CEO, your investors earnings call is sort of like when a captain of a ship has to answer to, well, their superiors. So I guess the general or the admiral of all the boats. So when you're leading a boat, which is a business, similar to a business, you've got to explain yourself. And you can't just say that, well, these workers didn't do their job. You're responsible for all the workers. So he's explaining what happened because in that conference call, he also mentioned that $2 billion were left on the table. What could have been profit was taken away. And sort of like when you're a captain of a boat, if your boat breaks or you have damages on the boat, but you went through a storm, no one really, your job isn't at risk. And boy, has Jim Farley and other CEOs from other auto manufacturers gone through a horrible storm since 2020 to 2023, where 2020 to 2023 prices rose. And this is according to JP Morgan. Prices rose from 2020 to the end of 2022 by 42.5%. So I would say right now, I'm going to have one of those crazy thumbnail sentences. I'd say it's a wild time and prices have increased dramatically. It's the Wild West out there and there's smoke on these guns. But what can you do? You read this, you watch the YouTube videos and you think this is the worst time to ever buy a vehicle. I'd like to remind everyone, back in 21, when prices rose from 20 to 21, People were saying the same thing. Don't buy a vehicle right now. Wait 3-4 months. It's a horrible time. And what happened? I was saying buy a vehicle right now. Interest rates, prices have gone up, but interest rates are still low. Interest rates will increase. Buy a vehicle right now. Or in reality, I was saying order a vehicle right now. Get your price locked in. I favored Ford for the fact that you could lock in your price and your interest rate when you order, whereas with GM, you cannot. So there's several GM products I like. I've been trying to convince Marie to let me get a Corvette instead of a Porsche. I love the new Corvette. I'm not a huge fan of the idea of turning the Corvette name also into an SUV and the Camaro name into an SUV and maybe even a minivan. That makes me sick to my stomach. But what can you do? There are definitely some GM products I really like. I do like the Colorado. We saw a ZR2 that I'll be showing a little. I'll do a little short on that when we're on vacation. Great little vehicle. But basically, to go back in 21, what was I saying? Saying interest rates are going to go up. Prices on the vehicles have gone up, but they're going to continue to go up. Buy now from any manufacturer where you can lock in your price and interest rate. So that was advice that I wanted to give you to try to save you all thousands of dollars. And now when I look at 23 prices, I'm going to pick on Ford because every journalist, I don't pick on them very much. I always try to give a fair, straight story and look at both sides. But generally when you're a journalist, you pick on Ford. It seems to be a trend. Everyone, they've got high demand vehicles. So when you say something on Ford, you've got viewers coming in. I think that's part of it. But basically, Ford right now, I look at the F-150, and if you look at an XLT 300, I'm going to talk a little Canadian now, but it's okay. It does translate easily. If you're looking at an XLT 300 with, let's say, an FX4 package, a bit of equipment, it's like $69,000. And what's wild is a Sport XLT 302. So that's the highest trim XLT versus the lowest trim XLT with a bit of equipment as a 23 being $69,000. Well, the highest trim XLT for 2022, you'd pick that up at 66,600 Canadian. So, and then right in the yard, I did a walk of the yard. I'm looking at a 23 Sport equally equipped, and it went from 66,600 roughly to 74,000 even. That's that's about a $7,600 price increase. And do recall, interest rates are also higher. So my advice is if you can get a 2022 right now from any manufacturer, but I'll use Ford as an example because I know them off by heart without looking at any notes. Ford right now, if you can pick up an F-150, it's a fantastic deal. Yes, the prices on the 2022 F-150 are more than they were on the 2020. But when you think about that price being $8,000 less than a 23, and you also figure that you're going to save 2 to 3% on interest, you've got a smoking deal because in interest, you're saving about, I'm not going to do the exact math. You can do it at home if you want, but let's say roughly $8,000 to $12,000, depending on how much you save in interest. And that depends on how long you're going to finance or if you're going to purchase, but you can save about $10,000 to $12,000 in interest plus $7,500 on the price of the truck. So that really does lead me to conclude right now, smoking great deals on F-150s. I know Ram, I'm not a huge Ram truck guy. I prefer my frames not folded. Just picking on you, Ram, just teasing a little, but everyone has their pros and cons. But Ram traditionally for the last 10 years, their huge pro are big rebates. And I definitely would not have ever considered buying a Ram when they're selling at retail or over window. But right now, Ram has a huge rebate. They're looking, at least in my area, $11,000 off. So they're almost back to their original rebates because in Canadian, they generally month after month always had $15,000 to $17,000 off, which yes, it means your trade when you go to bring in your Ram 1500 as a trade. Don't think it's going to be worth, your depreciation is based on the original price. No one ever paid that window sticker. It was always $15,000 to $17,000 off. So don't be fooled by a window sticker price. It's important to know manufacturers and models, historic, the history behind what kind of rebates they give out. Now, used vehicle. I think 2023 is going to shape up to start looking like a pretty decent year to buy a used vehicle, especially if you have cash. JP Morgan's talking about 10 to 20% decrease in the used vehicles. Now, of course, they were pretty inflated. They rose a lot. But now they're really very reasonable levels in regards to price. If you find a dealer or a business or particular between individuals and they're asking today's market value. How can you find out today's market value? A little trick. Go online and look at a lot of them for sale. And ideally, find a website that gives you averages. Now, I'm going to plug a channel I really like, Ray and Zach. They also have Car Edge. So over on Car Edge, you can all sorts of tools like vehicle averaging price tools, tools to help you find a vehicle, and they even have people who will, you can. They literally have a team of people helping you buy a vehicle. And now, hon, if we could just put on something a little more attractive in the back, because I'm done with those numbers.
This one?
So before we get to Ranger news, let's keep it with price inflation rate here.
This one?
Yes. So let's just, sorry about this. So if you want to play around until you find a little thing talking about different manufacturers and price increases. So we're going to continue to talk a little bit about Ford. So at Ford, prices did increase considerably over the last 2 years. Like everyone, Chrysler in the last year was about 13.1% off the top of my head, but Marie's going to get to it. It's one of the tabs up here. And everyone saw increases. BMW was right around the 13% mark as well. So huge increases. Now, JP Morgan is also talking about 2.5 to 5% decrease in new car prices. Am I going to wait for those new car prices? Jim Farley says at Ford, prices should go down by about 5%. Am I going to wait to see a window sticker go down by 5%? No, not at all. I bought right now, so that's my personal news. I think I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for a while. I bought right now because what's going to go down is not the MSRP. Average transaction price is going to go down. And what is that? Well, it means that dealers selling over MSRP, which for 2022 averaged out to roughly 5% over MSRP. If you took all the brands together and all the models and you put them up into a pot, the average would be pretty darn close to 5%. That's what's disappearing this year. So my huge advice to save you thousands and actually help you even get a vehicle, because if you sit down and you listen to a lot of YouTube channels, you're going to think, well, I'm going to wait until they take $10,000 off a $50,000 vehicle. I highly doubt that's going to happen. Things are going to return to normal, not better than they were before 2022. Things are going to return to normal. If you wait for, that $10,000 rebate from a manufacturer that never gave a $10,000 rebate on the model you're looking at, you're just never going to get that model. Where you are going to get a $10,000 rebate is getting a 2-year old model. So if new, it's $50,000, you think you're going to get $10,000 off, but it's a model and at a manufacturer that never gave $10,000 off, you're going to get a used, because used prices are coming down. They have to come down because the interest rates are high, and the interest rates are causing the monthly payments on a used vehicle, a 2-year-old vehicle, to be very, very similar to that of a new vehicle. That also is a whole different story, and it's a different barrel of fish that I'll get into at another time. But basically, you need to know a bit of history on the model. So when you go into the dealership, you can't just expect to get 5% off MSRP. Yes, some brands will be doing it, some models. Dodge Ram traditionally always had about $15,000 to $17,000 in rebates month after month. Right now they have $11,000 off. A few months ago they had a little less, around $8,000 off. Before that they had $5,000 off. They're just slowly going back to their original price. So you're going to see two things happening these days in the next 12 months. You're going to see vehicles going back to one, their original rebates, or close to, maybe not 100% of the original rebates, but closer to the original rebates. You're also going to see MSRPs slowly continue to increase, actually. That's why I'd say ordering a new vehicle where you can lock in incentive as well as MSRP. That's the type of manufacturer you want to do business with in case interest rates go up. And anyways, any manufacturer where when you order, you can lock in MSRP as well as interest rate. When it comes in, the interest rate is lower, you can have that lower interest rate if you take the new if it is increased MSRP price. So when Ford CEO Jim Farley says prices are going to decrease by 5%, we're talking about overall average transaction price. That includes any fees or any adjusted market fee, any add-ons, really the BS that some dealers, not all dealers, some dealers were adding a lot of market adjustment fees. They're saying things like, well, your used vehicle is worth, let's say, 40% more. So you've got this $30,000 vehicle, you're getting $6,000 more for it than you normally would. Well, guess what? We're adding $6,000 onto this new vehicle you're looking at. I've heard that from salespeople at other dealers. They said, look, your trade, we're giving you an extra 10. We're going to charge an extra 10 for, this Kia van. Kia also went up around 12% in 2022 in MSRP. So what we saw at Ford and what we're going to continue to see is those above the market adjustment fees are going to come down. You're going to start buying vehicles at MSRP, and the previous models that had manufacturer rebates, they're going to go back to having some manufacturer rebates, not necessarily all of them. So I'm definitely not going to be waiting around for MSRPs to come down. So I bought my Lightning, and now one little correction, CarEdge said that the Lightning went up 42. If you want to go to this, just find CarEdge. It's about 40% or 42.5%. And I can understand. I think it's because they've seen the news that you can no longer get a Pro version. So when they said that the starting price on the Lightning is $95,000, it skewed the percentage. And I'm also going to admit of an error I made recently. But when you actually look at it, the numbers on it here are that, so they're saying the original price, and this is, I triple checked this, the original price on the Lightning was indeed $41,669 for a Pro model. They then said for 23, your base price is $93,600, so that they're the winner with a loser of a 40% increase in price. That's not the case because the Pro model is for 2023, $55,974, which you divide, 41,669 by 55,974. Hope I'm not losing anyone here. Equals 0.744. You reverse that, you get 25.6% price increase on the Lightning. So my Lightning went up about 12 to 14,000. I think it was supposed to be 98,000 Canadian. I had to pay it 110,000, and it would have been 112, but it didn't come with heated steering wheel and the scales in the back, and it's missing a few things. So far, of course, there's the newness. I'm loving it. The sound system impressed me, but I'll keep all that for later. But I bought a Lightning. I think I know what I'm doing. I've been buying a lot of vehicles. There are certainly people on the internet who bought more vehicles than me, but I'm easily in the 70s because in 2016, we were at car number 43. We had a license plate for that Mustang, and the license plate was 43 or 48. Pretty sure it was 43. I've been counting more or less since 43, since 2016. So 2016 bought in 2015. My apologies. So over the last number of years, switching so many cars per year, this is where we're at. It's a good time to buy, and if it's a good time to buy a vehicle if you do not pay over MSRP, because the worst thing that can happen is right now you buy at a dealer that still thinks they're justified in paying over MSRP, and they're not, because the used prices have gone down. So with used prices, they went down last July. So smart dealers adjusted right away. Carvana, CarMax, all them, they continued to pay huge prices on vehicles, even though they should have been paying them lower. And then it went down again a lot in November. I did videos on this. It went down a lot in November. So then what happens is if you have a company like Carvana that bought a whole lot of vehicles in the summer and they're still hanging around in November, you're way overpriced. You paid them way too high. And if you're stubborn, you say, no, I'm going to keep them until I sell them. I'm not willing to lose money on this. No, you need to lose money. You need to take a huge cut, reduce the prices on those vehicles, and get them out and replace them with, each parking spot. It's like its own little business. And you got to get rid of that section of your business that's not making money and replace it with a piece, a worker, a unit that is going to make you money. So that needs to be done. Smart dealers did it. Smart dealers will survive. So lots of thumbnails. Dealers are dead. Dealers are done. It's game over for dealers. Yeah, for some, but for others, it's not an issue at all. These fluctuations were far more radical and quick than previously, because previously vehicles depreciated every month instead of once or twice a year, but the depreciation happened all in July and November. Do not pay over MSRP. Do not pay any bogus fees. That's what you need to do to buy a vehicle. It's a very good time to buy a vehicle, especially if you find a deal on 2022. And a deal does not necessarily mean a rebate. It can just be a very competitive low interest rate, like 1.99%, like we can currently get here in Canada on a 2022 F-150. That's a great deal. You look at the new 23, it's more expensive. So it can be an excellent time to buy a vehicle. Now with Ford, thankfully, when you order your vehicle, you got to kind of watch these videos to know what you need to do to keep your order and have it be legitimate and valid. But Marie, for example, is going to be saving about $4,000 some odd dollars on her 2021 because she's going to avoid all those price increases. And it's once we do all the math on it and we get it in front of us, I'll give you the exact rebate, but it's a little more because it's Canadian versus American. In the United States, the hybrid was about a $2,600 rebate. Now, I made an error in calculation. I made a thumbnail that said 25% increase with a question mark. Thank goodness I had the question mark, but I forgot to ask the question. The question was, will the Maverick increase by 25%? Because if you look at the pricing, Maverick pricing didn't really change through all 2022 because Ford knew while their clients had already ordered. Order banks were sold out, and it was game over. They were all sold. So they didn't have to play around with pricing because they weren't really selling them anymore. Though you could still order one from a dealer that would later put in your order, but a smart dealer would say, look, you're going on a waiting list. This price isn't guaranteed because Ford will not accept this order, but you're on our waiting list and we'll put you in as soon as the banks open up and you'll get your Maverick sooner by doing this. So my local dealer, that's exactly what they did. But for people that made the deadlines, bought while they're still available, got to, originally lock in their price, their interest rate. Now, as the year progressed, I was saying, you need to get built if you want to preserve that. Now what's happened is Marie gets a special rebate, but she doesn't get to lock in that original interest rate because at Ford, when you change model year, everything's back to zero. And they could just say, too bad, you have to pay the new MSRP and you have to pay the new interest rate. But Marie's Maverick, she'll have to pay today's interest rate, but she will get a huge rebate in the process. Now, Marie, your Maverick is going to be a month later than the ETA estimated time of arrival. So people often take those as a guarantee. So here's the Maverick bad news. Some people are going to get delayed for, I have yet to know what reason, delayed a month. It was built. They could have shipped it. And here's some great and bad news. The bad news is it's going to be a month later. I had to spend $1,700 on winter tires on the Lightning because her Maverick isn't here to put winter tires that she already wanted. She wants to keep this for a long time, and I'm not the boss here, so I can't tell her to switch. That's my thing. I love you. Otherwise, I'd force you to switch. The one thing I'd be tempted to force on someone is to switch vehicles. So that's my thing. So Ford, you've cost me $1,700. It happens. The Lightning looks great with the BF Goodrich KO2s. So stay tuned to see what that looks like.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Mabsin and Ridgeview were asking that. So yeah, Ridgeview, we were waiting for a car after our trip to Florida, but it was his Lightning.
Yes.
So we needed to say bye to the Bronco.
The Lightning was already waiting for us, and we didn't take it because we didn't trust the network enough. Well, we know the network for Electrify America is fantastic. We'd have enough chargers, but we had too many stops. You have to keep, for fast charging, you have to be above 15%, and you can't go above 80% of the battery capacity. So staying within 15 to 80%, we figured we'd be stopping every 3 to 4 hours for about 35 minutes. And we just didn't, if the charger or chargers don't have a lineup for them. So we're like, no, it's going to take too long to get down to Florida. We flew down in the Bronco, loved it. But back to the Maverick. The good news on the Maverick is of four tremor orders. So if you're a tremor order, listen up. This is for you. Tremor. On the Maverick, of four, three got scheduled, and one is going to come along. And this is something I don't understand. You've been waiting since July 2021, and this new September 20th, 2022 order, both were waiting to be shipped. And the tremor got picked up and sent, and your hybrid did not. So I don't know.
We don't know why.
Is this
I was
just
supposed to have it mid-February.
Yeah, is
Now
this
I
just
need
a
to wait 1 month
clerical
more.
thing? Is this a clerical error? Are we going to find out there's a recall on the hybrid?
Yeah, I've lost my Maverick.
Do they need to reprogram it? Is it missing a piece? But it was built and everything was a-okay, and it was supposed to be here between February 8th and the 14th. Supposed to be a Valentine's Day. Announced it in the premiere on Ford Bronco and Maverick accessories that played just before this video. And I said, hey, Marie's going to have a Valentine's Day present. I'm going to throw on some accessories. Who cares about what's more romantic, flowers or, accessories for your Maverick? Of course it's accessories for your Maverick, right?
More practical. Flowers
Way more
will
practical.
just die.
They will.
1 week after. My
Yeah.
Maverick will be here.
Yeah, and even my cars last longer than flowers. Now, my cars generally last in the yard for 3 to 6 months, but that's still longer than a bouquet of flowers.
Mhm.
But Marie's been pushed back,
But you can
and
put
I don't know
chocolate in
why.
my Maverick, A box of chocolate in my Maverick.
If I leave Winston in your Maverick for 30 minutes, there'll be chocolate in your Maverick as well.
No,
Just
not
like
that
that
kind of chocolate.
was tonight's technical issue. But I think we got the sound. I feel the sound's a lot better.
Yeah, tell us in the chat if you hear us well this time, because we're still in construction. You don't see the rest of the studio, but we're still in construction. So help us to know if we do it right.
And I want to shout out Ridgeview. Thank you so much for being the moderator this evening. Dirk, Connor, you're back-to-back on both shows. Thank you very much. The WB, the 305 Holler, we're always seeing you come by. Good to see you as well. Fiona Biscuit, I see you often over on Tim Bart's channel, which you all know that I love being there. Frank Keel, you're often, pretty much always in the chat. Keeping things animated. So, and I'm leaving a lot of you out because I can't have a 30-minute show just mentioning everyone that helps out in the chats. But thank you very much for keeping things in the chat, making this a real community where we can share our worries, our stresses, and I'm there at the end of the show to answer some of those stresses and worries. So talking about price increases. So we're on the Car Edge in the back right here. Car Edge, fantastic, really good people, helpful team. So just a quick Maverick, I had my thumbnail saying 25% increase with a question mark. Well, it's 12.5% for 6 months. So the question I have, and I forgot to post it and actually say it, was, will the Maverick increase by 25%? Because I said it's sort of increased by 25% and sort of not. The XLT increased by, a Lariat increased by 5%. Really not bad over 5 months because that's roughly inflation. But I do see MSRPs either staying the same or going up. I 100% will stand by this. In no way do I see MSRPs going down. And the rebates will be found with companies that already had rebates. So it just means pricing going back, looking similar to what it was, but still the MSRPs are inflated. We're not going to go back to 2019 or 2020 MSRPs. They're going to continue, back in 2020, off the top of my head, an XLT Sport in Canadian dollars was about 58,000. Let's say end of 2019, about 58,000, and now it's like 74. So it's gone up. When they say that prices have gone up over 2 years, 2.5 years by about 40%, yeah, I can say that doesn't sound crazy at all from living through it on a daily basis. So Car Edge talks about the Toyota Sequoia up 15.6%. So it's not just Ford. Everyone likes to pick on Ford. Kia, some of the worst when it comes to market adjustment fees. Had a friend trying to buy a van from Kia and ridiculous add-on in Canada, and the add-ons in Canada are usually non-existent or very low. So, and they were huge. but that's been kind of across the board. They did a lot of their dealers, and don't blame the manufacturer, it's their dealers. They did a lot of price increasing, selling above MSRP. So do not pay above MSRP right now, and let's just hope interest rates go down. But you know what, we can all hope and say, I'm going to buy when interest rates go down. But if interest rates go down to what they were, demand is going to go back up, and it's going to be higher than supply, and we're just going to be back to where we were in summer 21 or summer 22. So it's hard to know really what to wish for, and it's hard to know, and this is why I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting for X to happen. I'm just working on getting a good deal now. And if the deal makes sense now, I do the deal now, because I really do see, if interest rates were to go down on new vehicles by, let's say, instead of often seeing 6%, if we start seeing 2%, there's going to be a rush for, people are going to say, oh boy, interest rates have gone down, we have to go, and everyone's going to flood in. There won't be any supply at all again, and the prices will increase. It's not going to help anything out. So the market needed to be adjusted. It was adjusted very slowly and delayed, actually, it should have probably been adjusted 6 months earlier. And then when they did, they made a very minor adjustment. So I do know, though, that if there are starting to be very few house sales, very few car sales, people running the banks and the government, they're going to probably react a little quicker this time than last time. I doubt that they would, wait 6 months to drop interest rates. And we already saw it. We were listening to Sirius Radio, and they're talking about interest rates on houses being slightly down and being able to get a 5.99 and being able to save hundreds per month, because for the first time in quite a long time, the interest rates didn't increase when it comes to houses. So Kia, 16.6% increase in pricing for 2022, and that's on the Kia EV6. Electric vehicles saw the greatest price increases because the cost of building these were the greatest. So many manufacturers are rushing to create electric vehicles. There's way too much demand on EVs. Part of the opinion why I think plug-in makes a lot more sense. Most people don't need 500 kilometers of autonomy every single day. Almost everyone needs about 30 to 60 miles per day. So if you have a plug-in and you have 50, 60 mile range, and you have that backup gasoline engine, so hybrid, plug-ins are hybrids with both an electric engine and a gasoline engine, you get to kind of go everywhere, and you don't have to worry about going down to Florida in a 27-hour trip, adding an extra 7-8 hours of charge time to that. Now you've got the Mazda CX-9 up 8.4%. Average transaction price, don't be fooled. A lot of the increases also is because more people went towards luxury vehicles and more equipped vehicles. So generally, the North American market, we got more gadget obsessed on average. We got more luxury obsessed on average, and we just wanted more equipped vehicles than we did 3-4 years in the past. So part of the statistics you're seeing about average transaction price greatly increasing and things are wildly out of control, well, part of that is on us, and a lot of that, yes, vehicles have increased dramatically in price, but that doesn't mean you should never buy one these days, because they're never going to go back to the prices that they were. So on that logic, I bought the Lightning, and on that logic, well, it'd be wild for Marie or any of us Maverick orderers to not take our Mavericks, because we get special rebates as long as you ordered within the proper dates. So I've talked about it before, but real quickly, hybrid, to get a huge incentive or rebate, you had to have ordered before November 15th in 2021, the EcoBoost January 27th. If you bought out of those dates, well, then you're on a waiting list at a dealer, and they put you in right up front September 15th to the 20th, roughly off the top of my head. And in which case, what you need to make sure your dealer gives you is that original 23 ordering price, as well as original interest rate, as long as you get your vehicle within 23 as a 23. If you get a 2024 model, That's a whole different ball game, and I'll keep you updated on what that's going to look like. Maybe Ford will offer a special rebate, maybe not. We'll have to see. So Toyota Tundra up 5.2%. Jeep Compass, I really don't want this model, but it's up 10%. I think for me to want it, it had to have gone down 40%. I'm really not a fan of the Jeep Compass, just long term, and styling. But anyways, I won't be a bully here, Marie. I know I'm
Yes,
getting
stop bullying. I
Marie's.
was loving the Jeep Compass a few years ago.
Well, a few years ago, you didn't read enough about automobile news and reliability and
No, I was
and
just
styling.
looking at the beautiful cars and when
Yeah.
it was cute.
You liked it because it's square. Fair. That's a
Yeah.
good reason.
This is the shape, yeah.
I generally love squared off vehicles, but it's just a square. It's for me, the Jeep Compass is a square van, and that doesn't work for me.
It's better than a round van.
Yeah, it is
Feel
actually.
better.
That's really well said. Chevrolet Silverado 1500 LT up 5%, so really not bad. Not bad at all. Honda Civic, this is tough. Entry level vehicles have become unbelievably expensive. Anyone who needs an entry level vehicle, I feel really bad for because that's wild. Johnny's Car Care and Reviews, point to the square section of the 911, please. Oh, you've got me there. The engine is no, not even the engine. It's not. Darn, it's not. It's not a V6, is it? It's I think if I'm not mistaken. Help me out, M. Peugeot. I'm thinking I never got to look at one. I ordered a piece of paper, but I believe it's going to be. I hope it's going to be inline 6 twin turbo. If it's a V6, well, I don't have to worry about really long-term reliability because generally inline motors are much more reliable because they're much better balanced, much better balancing on an inline vehicle. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, that Ford's 2.3 liter and 2 liter as well, they're both inline engines, so well balanced. Mind you, you'd think they're not balanced well at all because of direct injection. They go ticka 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 ticka, which could sound like back in the day, if you had a V8 making that noise, you're like, okay, let's try to figure out when this is going to blow versus how fast do I need to sell this and let the person know, like, hey, look, the engine's ticking. Who knows? It's like a bomb. Okay. So that's what I have to say about whether to buy right now or not. Of cars shaped like jelly beans. Yeah, the WB. I love curves and I love squared off vehicles. And the WB, I think, is expressing this well. It's like I don't like the jelly bean shape. Yes, a jelly bean has has a curve or two in it, but I like a combination of curves that actually look. I'm sorry to say this, but sexy. Porsche's back end, it looks like a back end, and it's attractive. Sorry, but it's attractive. A squared off vehicle can look great if it's a mixture of squared off pieces, not just like when I think of the original Jeep Compass when it came out, it's like, okay, here's a square and then you've got this hood section, it's a rectangle. That's exactly what I used to draw over and over. I'm not autistic, but I would draw over and over a square like SUV or a square car. It'd be a square and a rectangle, and if it was a car, well, it was lower. Well, that's not good design etiquette in my opinion.
What's worse than a rectangle or a round car?
What's that?
One that used triangle, like the Santa Cruz.
Okay, you really don't like the Santa Cruz styling, but I actually like it.
Triangle shape everywhere. It's like
we saw it in Florida, and I'm like, hun, doesn't that truck? Doesn't that truck look great? And I knew I was gonna get a reaction, and she's like,
Maverick. Definitely.
Like, no, I don't like that truck. So,
I speak like that now.
Oh, okay, very good. And Peugeot says the squared off part of a 911 is the license plate frame.
True.
Pretty close. Here in Canada, it's still rectangular, but you're getting pretty close to a square there.
A Tesla truck. Oh, yeah.
Oh, a Tesla truck. Yeah. No, I'm really not a fan of the Tesla truck. It's kind of like a haircut. Okay, you can completely shave one side and do some weird patterns in the top and write a swear word on the side, and you can say, oh well, it's beautiful and artistic because no one's ever done it before. But sometimes no one's ever done it because it just looks stupid. And the Cybertruck to me looks stupid. It looks like
Oh my god,
a
you said
jerk's
that.
haircut that just begging for attention with like a spike and like a pink tip here and then another spike and a pink tip there. If that's your thing, great. Just don't try to sell me millions or hundreds of thousands of a model and try to present it as art or special when it's just like, well, no, you're saving a lot of money because you don't have to bend the metal, and the metal meets up in about 4 different places because you've got a mixture of flat triangle rectangles. Anyways, I'm getting way off topic tonight. I'm clearly I need to get back to working out. I'm clearly not managing my anger very well. Okay, so what else do we have for the show tonight? We've got the Maverick. It's looking good. We've got the Tremor showing up. Actually, Tremor is going to show up at 2022, September 20th, 2022. So basically kind of the last day order. It's going to show up a month before her hybrid. So I'll let you all know if it just a transport error, or is her Maverick being held back? And are we going to have more bad news? I don't know, but I'll let you all know.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you're dealing with Lily right now and you're trying to keep her from not panting too hard. If you could just flip through some of those images. I've got a little bit of other news that I want to share. So the other bit of news that I want to share is the Bronco has been my favorite vehicle. It's been the best vehicle. I always have trouble, and we both have trouble deciding whether we like the Raptor more. The Raptor is, well, the F-150 Raptor is better than the Bronco. It has better suspension, and it has better seats. It has a better sound system, but it doesn't have the same heart and soul. The fact that the Bronco can be a convertible has been an absolute, we love it. And we have to say bye. And it's even with the market now being cooled off, still have only cost us $2,000 to run for 14 months. And if I were to directly sell it to myself to the United States market, I would have made a little bit of more money, but I'm selling it to a United States dealer. So it has been fantastic. It hasn't had too many problems. Now I'll be making either a short or a long form video on the back plastic rivets because they broke. Someone tried to break in, and then one side, on the other side, one or two broke. So Ford just covered everything, saying, you know what? The plastic rivets weren't the toughest. They put metal rivets. You can now see them from the outside. Love the little military style, rugged style it gives it. But now we're on to an F-150 Lightning, and I do want to drag race that against the Raptor. I have thrown on BF Goodrich KO2 tire, so I'll be sharing the style difference between the regular tire and the BF Goodrich tire. And I did not do a 2-inch lift in the front, and I did not do an oversized tire because the oversized tire, I was looking at mid $600 per tire, and I got the BF Goodrich KO2s for $386 Canadian per tire, staying within the original. I believe it's 265, 275, 65, 20. That and so instead of going up to what would have been roughly a 33-inch tire with 305, 55, 20s, would have cost a lot more. I still think it looks very good. I think it might be something that you'll want to do to your F-150 or F-150 Lightning. And don't forget, I did do a video with the Maverick that had BF Goodrich KO2s, original size, but BF Goodrich KO2s, and that made that all-wheel drive Maverick look amazing. So I believe the photos, I hope the photos are on Instagram, and if they're not, I've got to get on to them. Mm-hmm. Side note, Marie and I are going to be making, Marie's going to have her own channel coming up, probably something along the lines of Relaxation Nation, and I'm probably going to have a channel called, well, I will have a channel called Relaxation Destination, where I'm going to put on stuff that's more family-oriented, the pups, our vacations, little skits that are either not automobile related or much less automobile related, because for example, our trip to Florida, we had a blast and we wanted to bring you on with us and I've got
We saw
amazing.
beautiful things
We
too.
saw beautiful things, and stay tuned. Right here tonight, I'm going to tell you the top speed of the Bronco because I hit it, and I'm not in jail. Yay! So happy I'm not in jail, but definitely hit the top speed. Double tested it, so that test is done. And I'll also have information tonight about tire wear. So, and Peugeot's in Texas. Thankfully, he's south enough, but a lot of Texans got snow, ice, slush. So maybe they want to consider, should I be running a winter tire? But what would be the wear? For the rare instance where we really need those winter tires and they could be life saving, should I put them on, or are they just going to melt away in the hot sun when we have 27-degree weather? Well, we drove through 27-degree weather. I'll do a full video on it, but I'll just come back and comment on the wear. So I'll give you guys the scoop since you're here for the live, and you chill and you hang out with us for every Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. for an hour. So you get the top scoop before. Someone said they saw a Bronco do a 5G dive. So yes, then the speed would be whatever the total speed gravity allows things or causes things to fall at. So clever, a little bit of science and a little bit of humor. That's fantastic. So yeah, quickly before getting into those two neat little facts, we've got the Ranger. If you're waiting on a new Ranger, so if you want to just find that from Ford Authority, some Ranger photos, they're out in the wild, but you kind of got to be wild to actually get to drive one of these. We're going through the whole process of testing, so manufacturer's plate tested by Ford. Then you're going to see more out on the roads, and they're going to be dealer. So it's just the ones at the top. There's going to be dealer demos, and there's also going to be journalist demos. Those won't get sold. They'll be probably scrapped. They're not going to be perfect, so hang tight. People will be making videos like, this Ranger is garbage because the radio doesn't even work, and I can't even drive it. So Ford clearly is worried about the quality of the engine. No, journalist demos like the early Bronco didn't have an engine in it, so you didn't get to drive it. Somebody that I do actually like watching their show, but he got really on a rant and upset, saying like, hey, this thing's gonna be complete garbage basically because Ford won't even let me drive it, so clearly they're ashamed of it and blah blah blah. No, there's no engine in the first ones, and they have very few of them. So yeah, not everyone got to drive them at first, so be ready for that. But Ranger orders, it's going to be one of two processes for getting this new Ranger. I love it. I'm probably going to get one unless interest rates get too wild. But I want a good interest rate. But the new Ranger, you're either going to be ordering it or reserving it with Ford come probably late winter, early spring, or it's going to be done directly at your dealer come roughly May or June. So I'll keep you all informed. I'll do a special video saying now's the time. Get your Ranger reservations in, or go to your dealer, get your Ranger. So I'll make sure none of us miss that important date. I do love it. We've seen, in Mexico, the Ranger Raptor officially arrived in Mexico. You can look at that because that's really going to be the Ranger we're going to deal with. So worldwide, Europe, Australia, they're all getting the same Ranger Raptor basically as this one right here. The power is different. North American market, we're getting a whole lot more power on a Ranger than the European market or Argentina. I guess they've got all these rules and regulations against fun. Some governments do that.
Fun.
Yeah, against fun. Some governments don't want you to have fun.
They don't want you to die.
No, they don't want you to have fun. We had this argument in regards to firearms in the vehicle, but I will not get into that on this channel, because then this channel will just, will be forced to disappear or whatnot. So here's the thing. In our market, we're going to have 392 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque on the Ranger Raptor. That is incredible. So if you want to head over to Ford Authority, you can check out the photos, find out. I'm really sorry, everyone. You can find out if you like the Ranger Raptor and if it's right for you. You got those incredible seats. I love red and black. I don't know what it is about red and black, but really like red and black, just like blue and black, obviously, since I'm always wearing it. But you've got the Ranger, you've got 2.5 inch suspension. It's active valve, so all the Raptors have this active valve system so that your shock doesn't overheat. So it's protected at the top and it's protected at the bottom with extra compression, so you don't, drop your wheel too hard, or you don't compress the vehicle on into the wheel too hard, so that then your wheel bangs into your undercarriage and causes damage. So you've got really good, well, not really good, amazing suspension. Our Raptor, when we drive it and we go through bumps, we can always feel like this thing is just made to fly over bumps and kind of fly up in the air, like you see in the photo right here. So I'm really excited for that product. I'm also excited, if you want to just go back to where we were before, I'm also excited just for the regular Ranger. And there's still a possibility that a six-cylinder, the new look, Marie says it looks like a big Maverick. Yeah, why don't you talk about it, and I'll make sure that I wrap up the show correctly.
Yeah, it's square like the Maverick, and I found it similar. It's the big brother. So yeah, I love it that they look similar to the F-150 too. So big family for the trucks and Ford.
So we both love the Ranger Raptor. We both love the Ranger. Now, if I like the 2.3 liter engine, it does a great job in the Ranger, but if the Wildtrak is offered here as a model, and if it does come with a six-cylinder, I'm going to be all over that Ranger. The Raptor, it's going to depend on the price. I can almost certainly get one for MSRP. I don't recommend people paying over MSRP for these. Look at our Ranger Raptor. Mm-hmm. Right now, a Ranger Raptor equipped like ours for a 2023 is 110. They generally sell for, they've always sold for over MSRP. But what's ours worth right now? Well, it's worth 56 Canadian on trade. So 110 on the window for a 2023, sold 30,000 over, and a 2019 with, about 35,000 miles is worth about 56 Canadian on trade. So if we sold it ourselves, obviously more. So let's say it's worth about 50 US. It's gone down tremendously, even if at one point, and even still now, the new ones are selling for over MSRP. So just keep that in mind when you're when you're shopping a vehicle. It's very easy to get into but it's only a little bit more for this. And then, it's only a little bit more for this and a little bit more for this. And you end up with, a Ranger Raptor.
Left to pay.
When a whole lot of other Rangers would have made sense. Or, we ended up in a Lariat Lightning, because I was like, I was looking at originally I put my reservation in looking at pro prices. And I said, okay, well, the XLT isn't that much. Oh, okay, but I need the big battery. Well, once you have the big battery, do I then just get a Lariat instead with the smaller battery? Oh, I do want the Lariat. Well, I need a Lariat big battery. And it almost never stopped. It came out with a price of $110,000 in the window sticker. So don't do like me, but I think my advice is still really good. Yeah, that was very smart on your part, very reasonable, and you actually wanted an XL, and I had to convince you into an XLT. XLs, by the way, for the Maverick, very constrained, hybrid, unbelievably constrained, so consider an EcoBoost XLT or Lariat. And the Tremor, well, they've got a lot of space to make Tremors. We've seen it with my orders. Out of 3 got picked up out of 4. Oh yeah, and that's how Peugeot ended up with an OBX Lux package, and that's how I ended up with an OBX Sasquatch high package. It's like, but then, originally I was looking at a 2-door Black Diamond Bronco, and I ended up with a 4-door Badlands 2.7 liter with hitch and nothing else, because I was like, I'm respecting my price, but it looks like I'm a bit of a princess, and I was like, Marie.
And you choose options to have it sooner. 2 doors, you will never have it the same time as what you had it.
Yeah, so OBX stands for the Outer Banks model. And it's also when you're in the Outer Banks in North Carolina, they've got stickers to go on the back of your Bronco or Jeep if you don't have any style or taste. And the lettering is OBX. Just kidding, Jeeps, I love you too. I slid that in without you realizing I'd said something really negative. I'm not allowed to say negative things. Marie makes rules. Okay, so let's talk about the Bronco's top speed. The Bronco's top speed is 101 miles per hour. Of course, this was tested on a race course, closed race course, of course.
By a
and I
professional
don't by a
driver.
professional driver and by closed professional racetrack. I don't mean the New Jersey Turnpike, which from what we've seen in the United States,
Looks
everyone
like
in
a
Jersey,
racetrack the way that they drove, but we didn't try it there.
the most reasonable driver was the Ferrari that we followed for like 25 minutes. The most reasonable driver was a high-end, relatively new Ferrari. So
Mhm.
Dodge
It
drivers,
was calm.
yes, Dodge drivers on the New Jersey Turnpike on the 95 in New Jersey. If you drive, 140 miles per hour, let's say roughly 220, 240 kilometers an hour, which we've seen pretty much mostly out of Dodge. We also saw a few Audis doing it and a few BMWs, but those were our top culprits. Now, when it comes next to speeding like dangerously, it would be Hyundai and Kia because they speed a little and then they slam on their brakes because I don't know, they saw a leaf. They're like that scared dog.
They just want to pass everybody and then slam.
Yeah, pass
Slam the
everyone.
brake.
Look at my economic vehicle that I paid less for. It's better than yours that you paid more for. Now I'm going to slam on my brakes and ruin your, Bronco that cost twice as much as my Hyundai. At Genesis, also, thankfully the dogs were strapped in. We were leaving the keys. Genesis passed us, sped past us, not Dodge speeds, but sped past us, slammed on the brakes, and if the dogs didn't have seatbelts, the dogs were going into the windshield. So Genesis, if you want to be known as your own separate brand from Hyundai and Kia, because they're together, you need to give driving courses or make sure that your clients pass these courses, because when people with Hyundai driving styles buy Genesis, well, it just reinforces to everyone else that it's
Stop
still just a
generalizing.
Hyundai. I am.
Stop it.
I'm being a jerk right now.
One day maybe
The Genesis was beautiful.
You'll be
Several
on the road
times.
with an Hyundai and I will laugh at you.
Yeah, we were in St. Augustine. We saw a Bentley, and I was like, "Yeah, that Bentley SUV. Check that out, hun. That's a very beautiful style, but that's a lot of money. It's a couple $100,000." And when I saw the Genesis, I actually prefer the Genesis SUV that almost squashed our pups into the windshield. I really like the style, and I have to say I like the styling from the exterior. I liked it more than the styling of the Bentley.
You can be kind with Genesis.
Yeah. Yeah. I can. Okay. So top speed on the Bronco, 101 miles per hour. Obviously, like I said, tested on a professional closed racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
Tested it twice. The first time when she was asleep, she woke up, told her, "Hey, by the way, the top speed's 100." Not thinking. I wasn't, I was tired. And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, you're mad?" She's like, "Yes." I was like, "Okay, well, here, I'm going to prove it to you. If you're already mad, far more in trouble. Let's show you." So that's what's going on there. And I also mentioned about tire wear. So a nice little scoop. We left Canada and we drove 27 hours to St. Augustine. We then, from St. Augustine, went down into the Keys, which must have been another roughly 10, 12 hours of driving because we were, running away from the cold weather. We arrived in warm weather, turned cold, went down to the Keys. We're actually in Florida City for a while, driving between Florida City and the Keys, giving us about 4 hours on the road per day. Then we went up to Miami. So when I do create the channel, relaxation destination, I'll have, these drives with music to them, driving through the Miami street. I'll turn down the sound because otherwise you just hear people honking the whole time, because people honk in Miami. Even if the bridge is up and there's boats passing and the lights are red, they honk at you because they're frustrated that you didn't magically, I could physically drive through the red light, but I can't physically go through a bridge. I can't walk through walls. I can't walk on water. So don't honk at my Bronco because I'm, following the law and not doing impossible magical things. But that was Miami for you. So we got out of there with a lot of frustration.
It was more the time that we spent in the traffic. We missed
The traffic
we
was
missed to see
wild.
the Everglades with the light of the day. But
We missed the
after
Everglades.
that, yeah.
So that's that. But St. Pete's Beach was incredible. Then we did Orlando, had dinner with Ridgeview and his wife Annie and Betty, their little dog. We had Winston
nice
and
to
Lily
meet
with
them.
us. Ford's Garage. Kudos, Ford's Garage is incredible. Great job, Ford's Garage. Really, really cool experience. Marriott hotels, top notch of everything that we tried. The resorts were great, but when you're outside of a resort, the 2 resorts we did, Marriott hotels, blew everything we've tried out of the water besides the resorts. So Marriott's awesome. Orlando Marriott, fantastic. North Carolina, did some off-roading on the beach, had a lot of fun on the beach, saw a lot of the damage that the hurricane did. It's sad for people living out there. Not easy, but had a lot of fun with the Bronco.
Yeah, and you said why not doing damage on your Bronco then? Because you tried to go in the water with the Bronco.
We drove in 27. Yeah, we drove in. I drove in the water, and there was a whole lot of steam coming out. And Maddie saw it as smoke, so there was some screaming.
We never knew how much water it was in the little pond. So, but he tries it.
Yeah, I'll have to edit that because her reactions are hilarious. I couldn't stop driving through the water because I don't know. It's like splashing a little kid. It's just, it's not going to hurt them. But, well, I mostly knew it shouldn't hurt the Bronco unless water gets an alternator, in which case I know I have made videos saying the Bronco was not a boat before, and I kind of boated my Bronco, but nothing broke, thankfully.
It's not a boat, but it's fun to try.
Yeah. And tire wear was very, very minimal. It's surprising because I'm sorry if someone could use a calculator to do kilometers to miles. It's, I believe, 1.6 conversion. So on the 1.6 conversion, we did about 3,200 miles down. And then we left at 11,000 kilometers and we came back at 19,500. So let's say 8,500 kilometers is roughly 5,500 or 6,000 miles. And in 32s on the tires, in the middle, we were at 15 32s. And on the outside, at the beginning of the trip, I measured them out to roughly 8 9. On the way back, still 8 9 on the outside and 14 in the middle. So 14 32s, 15 32s. We really did not lose very little tire wear on our Nokian winter tires, which are amazing on ice, amazing in snow. So my advice is if you're living in Texas, consider if you're living in regions that now Kansas, for example, you might receive snow, you might get ice, you might get slush. Minimum, I'd put BF Goodrich KO2s on or something that's called a 3-peak snowflake rated tire so that you're adequately prepared for these snowy conditions. Now the Nokians are great because they're amazing. We had this past weekend with wind chill. We're into the minus 40 degrees Celsius. For example, not far from us, the top of Mount Washington was at, I think it was minus 70 some degrees Celsius, which I think is about 110 or 100 in the minus 100-ish, low 100s Fahrenheit. So I'm sorry, Lily's trying to pull on the camera. So wild weather, and still they're great in snow and on ice. So that's the show for tonight. I'm going to answer a few questions. If we can not have too many technical difficulties, if the dog doesn't tear down the camera.
So we have Paulo that was asking, he's pre-ordered a fully optioned XLT Maverick hybrid on the first day of the pre-order on September 2022.
Yep.
What are the chances I see the car this year?
Your chances are good if your dealer actually put in your order immediately, or when they did put your order in, it was maybe day 2, but they nonetheless put in as the first one for their dealer. Because even if a dealer, let's say, put in everything, at the end of the week, well, the dealer should still get a certain allotment of both EcoBoost in a much higher number, 3-to-4 ratio, versus those hybrids. So they should still get hybrids. So if you're a day 1, your chances are pretty good. You're fine with the Lux package. My advice, take off any accessories. Oh, now he's trying to take. I'll show you what's going on here.
I'm looking at the chat and I have a dog.
So.
Hi, Winston.
So yeah, your chances are actually pretty good day 1. Day 2, I start to worry. Day 3, I bet you're not going to get built. Day 4, for hybrid orders out there that are day 3 or 4, I doubt you're going to get built. And for hybrid orders that are day 1, you probably will get, most certainly will get built as long as your dealer actually enrolled you or did what's called the customer order verification process. Basically, it's just enrolling, proving to Ford you're a real customer who knows what the price is. Ford, it's part of Ford's process to cut back dealer markups, to cut back, these unnecessary fees, or that, when your vehicle shows up, it's even more expensive than the MSRP on the internet at that time. They want you to see the original pricing. Ford's been working very hard to get everything under control. They're not just closing their eyes and ignoring things.
Good. And Peugeot wanted to know for the Bronco soft top, slant back or square back?
Oh, Bronco soft top.
What's your choice?
Yeah, the B-Stop slant back, or any new company that comes along and builds. B-Stop's been around for quite a while. I do really like the slant back. I really like that look, but on our trip, we needed the squared off soft top. We had the dog carrier, R2. Well, I'll let you watch the videos, but you'll see our trunk was full, and the dogs took up seats, but where normally the second row seating where human feet and legs would go, that was filled up. And the back of our seats had things, my cowboy hats, her hats, food bags. Anyways, the vehicle was packed. So when we go back to Broncoing, Marie wants a soft top. I want a painted hard top if it's available by then.
Because soft top is quicker to remove and put back. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, of course she loves that, because if she starts to get cold, the problem needs to be resolved now. Whereas if I start to get cold, what happens is I ignore it, and 6 hours later, I look at Marie and say, yeah, today I was taking photos of the Bronco, and we had with wind chill minus 44 roughly, and I lightly burnt 2 fingers and a thumb, so that I can still feel them. They still hurt. That was Saturday. So this is Monday. Sorry, that was Friday morning. So Marie's not the same. A little bit of wind comes along. That top needs to close like nobody's business.
You need to do it quick. If it starts raining at a stop, you can put it back quick. I love that.
Right meow. You
Right
need it.
meow.
You want it done right meow.
Yeah. I'm just looking at if we have another question here.
Well,
I don't see other
otherwise,
question.
we're
If
gonna
you
close
have
it up.
one, that's
Well,
fine.
we'll
That's
be back
fine.
next Monday for our 7:30 p.m. live. We hope to see you all there. Thank you so much for making it this far in the show. If you have made it this far in the show, when this show closes up, if you can just come back and write in the comments of the show finisher, that'll really help actually let me know that you made it to the end. So thank you very much if you do. And also by putting it in the main comments, not the live chat, but the other comments section, it's going to help get this information out to more people. And had more people had more information like we share in our community together, a lot of people are asking questions where it's like, oh man, if you'd have just taken your accessories off your Maverick, you would have had it like a long time ago. So let's try to get people some help, get the word out. Thank you so much for watching. So that wraps everything up.
I have a special thanks to do. Thank you, Ridgeview. Like always, to do the chat. Thank you for high follow. You said to people to push the button thumbs up. And Peugeot, thank you so much, because you translate all the things that John was saying about miles versus kilometers,
Oh wow, thank you.
degrees Celsius and Fahrenheit. So he translated in the chat for you. So thank you so much for the help.
Really appreciate it, gang. Everyone, we hope you have electricity. Well, obviously, if you don't have electricity, you're probably not watching, but when you watch this later on, we hope everyone has electricity. Stay safe. Consider for next winter or even later this winter, get a generator, but stay safe and take care of the people who have a bit more trouble taking care of themselves in this cold weather and these snowstorms. Take care, everyone. Bless you all. And until next time, we wish you all more cars and more power.
Bye.